Jake Auchincloss, good to see you. Thanks for joining me here on Zoom for an update in your campaign.
I appreciate you having me on, Ted.
So Jake, two big announcements. That's why we're talking today. Two endorsements from two prominent lawmakers down here on the South Coast. Tell us a little about how did you get them on board as supporters of your campaign?
Representatives Carol Fiola and Pat Haddad are titans of the South Coast. For years now, these two women have been champions for their constituents on Beacon Hill, and they are well respected by their fellow lawmakers. And I'm honored to have their support for my campaign for Congress. It's the beginning of a partnership to make sure that the constituents of the South Coast are not left behind by Washington, D.C.
I'm curious, I actually remember I emailed Pat Haddad maybe a month or two ago, and she wasn't sure yet who to back. Of course, some of us thought she might run for this seat. In the end, what did they talk about? What did they stress to you when they talked about what was important to them in a member of Congress representing their part of Massachusetts?
Showing up for their constituents, making sure that there is a strong partnership between the federal level of government, the state level of government, to get results for the people of the South Coast. We've got north of 25% unemployment in Fall River, north of 20% in Taunton. We've got serious work to do to make sure that we have a green economic recovery, to make sure that healthcare is a human right, to make sure that local budgets are not hit hard by in these next 2 fiscal years. We've got serious work to do, and that work is going to require partnership between the federal and state levels of government. And I think both Carol and Pat saw that I could be an effective partner with them.
More broadly, I've been checking in with a bunch of your fellow candidates in this race. Obviously, everything's changed with the pandemic and all that. We all know that. I'm just curious, kind of, as you think about these last 2 months heading into the primary, I know you're going to say, talk to as many voters as you can and get my message out and all of that. But kind of brass tacks, how do you both reach people when you can't do as really much, if any, door-to-door campaigning? And, what's going to be your campaign's push to win this pretty crowded primary?
It's a crowded primary, and it's a strong primary field. I first got elected in 2015 to the Newton City Council by knocking doors. There was nothing complicated or glamorous about it. We knocked 15,000 doors as a campaign, and the inability to do that in this campaign is disappointing to me. There's no way around it. I love knocking doors. There is no better way to actually connect with voters than to have a one-on-one conversation with them on their porch. Having said that, it's just not safe in this environment, and so we are using every other means available to us to forge that connection. We are doing phone calls. We'll be communicating to voters through mail, through TV, through digital, and perhaps most importantly, I'll be communicating alongside state and local elected officials in the South Coast who see in me the person who can make sure that the South Coast recovers alongside the rest of Massachusetts out of this recession and out of this pandemic.
Reporters, we always debate among ourselves how important endorsements are, how much they move voters, how much they're just interesting stories for us to write for kind of inside baseball. But do you think, I wonder if they might matter more in this environment because you can't always go yourself to talk to a voter. So having people they recognize, say that they think you're a good candidate. Do you think that's more helpful right now than maybe in a normal election environment?
Well, I'll leave it to the journalists to debate the horse race aspect of this. What I will say is that I'm looking forward to working with Representative Fayol and Representative Haddad because I want to work with them when I'm in Washington, D.C. on behalf of the constituents of the South Coast. So whether or not it shows up in poll bumps is frankly secondary to me. What's important to me is I've got partners that I can start working with now on jobs and a green economic recovery, on making sure healthcare is a human right, on making sure we provide the support for state and local budgets that are necessary to prevent cuts to essential services.